Oh, yeah. Bottom right-hand corner, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kibbles.
Hailing from Spain, the green Terran player, he is Lucifron. And privyet to this gentleman in the top left-hand corner from Ukraine. He's the red Terran player, Kos.
Alrighty, Roo. So, Kos versus Lucifron. I would expect some very dynamic TVTs here. Kos is a guy who likes his macro. Lucifron's a guy who likes his Hellions. Lucifron likes Hellions to the point that it's almost kind of a flashback to, you remember, like, the middle of 2011 when we had the Viking Blue Flame Hellion days.
It was Columbus when all of a sudden all the Koreans showed up at a foreign tournament and just went, Hellions are pretty good when you get the Blue Flame upgrade, and like every Zerg just died crying that entire time. Like,
yeah. Now, I don't expect like the one base variants that we saw there, but we could see very strong Hellion attacks still out of Lucifron. And this is a map that can lend itself to a little bit longer TVTs. Couple of reasons for that. It's a two-player map, but it's a very long map. We do see gas bursts out of Costa. You may open with some Banshees or some shenanigans. But once you stabilize on 2 or 3 bases, all the space out in the open, you've got to have just beautiful tank positioning and awareness of the map. So you tend to have these really long tank lines, mech setups, things like that. So, I mean, we could have a quite long TVT series on our hands between these two.
No, that's entirely possible. You know, if we do get to a late game situation and one of these players realizes, okay, my opponent is a little bit better in this late game, they could go for some interesting strategies to really try to shake up the bottle in the early game. But honestly, it's so tough to even call. So let's look at Kos. Here's a guy who almost all of his training comes from ladder. He's got around like 10,000 wins on European ladder. They call him the Machine. He's just a monster when it comes to practicing. He has a very stable, conservative play style. This guy, he's an egg that is made of titanium. You can't crack him.
That's right.
No matter how fragile he looks.
But he's an egg made of titanium that has a tank gun on the front of it, and he just wants to sit back, play long macro games, and shell you to death.
Ha! Shell.
See what I did there?
The egg's doing the shelling.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Oh,
We're doing this. Anyway, second gas actually coming out for Kos. So we were talking about turtling up, wanting to play a long macro game. Nope, we're going to see a very strong...
Shells.
Yeah. We're going to see a very, very aggressive build here to start things off. Most likely Cloak Banshees, and we'll see what he decides to do apart from that. Lucifron's going to have a great read on this, though. It's not like Kos has even made an attempt to hide this. He just believes that he's going to do more damage than he's going to take in return.
Yeah, and, you know, honestly, I mean, this is pretty, it's not unstandard to see this at all. The one thing that is a little atypical, you know, Lucifron going for the, well, actually, he just got in there and scouted, so no, this is perfectly normal. He's going to get a nice Marine count so that he can deal with these Banshees, and wow, 3?
He even gets out.
How does that happen, though?
I don't know. It's because it's Lucifron. He's a wizard.
He went over and attacked an Autobot 2000, and then actually the explosion injured him by 2 hit points.
I believe the true expression is "you're a wizard, Harry," is what people use in reference to Lucifron. Does look like Harry Potter.
Quite a bit.
Yes, but you know, maybe we'll need him to save the world. So, yes.
Last I saw, yeah, didn't have them anymore.
Met him over in Spain. Great guy. As is his brother, Vortex. Have a sweet picture of me with the Current Esports Club guys. Let's see here. As making 3 barracks worth of Marines, though, certainly going to keep him safe in terms of Air Forces. And he may even be able to walk up and meet this Marine Force head on. Looks like he is going to.
Yeah, hugging the angle really tight. Stutter stepping in. All these Marines for Kos are going to not die. 3 hit points once again. Of course, Marines.
Well, Kos now with Cloak Banshees on the way. Lucifron's going to have to deal with it, and you deal with that by providing detection. He already has the engineering bay. He's already building missile turrets everywhere, so the cloaked things are not going to disrupt him all that much, and he's got double orbital commands for additional scans.
Here comes that Banshee we were talking about earlier. Lucifron looks like he went for really fast combat shields, but not fast enough. Of course, Banshee, you know, if you have combat shields, guys, it does take 3 volleys to kill you, not 2. But here, well, those Marines are still going to be quite supple for the killing.
Ooh, well, the Marines actually ran away at just the wrong time. Lucifron's out on the map. Now it looks like this missile turret is going to successfully take out about half the hit points off of this Banshee, but the Banshee's already gotten itself 1 kill.
Yeah.
See if it can get any more, but of course it invested in Cloak. It's got to do a little bit more than just 1 SCV worth of damage.
All right, well, these Marines are still soft. Another 20 seconds maybe until Combat Shields does finish. The SCVs as well take 2 shots to kill, guys, so we're seeing this Banshee get quite a number of kills. I think it's up to, is it up around 6 now at this point? Yeah, 6 kills on the Banshee. Nice scan, but it's not going to be enough. Koss doing some damage here.
Yeah, and somehow still making this Cloak work despite all the disadvantage of this already happening. Looks like a second Banshee tried to duck in. It got warded away right away.
Yeah.
As the Banshee now. Excuse me. Second Banshee not finding any success, and a great missile turret ring to prevent it from being able to make its way in.
Oh, the Banshee goes down. Lucifron getting his turrets to pay for themselves right now. You know, it's always nice to hold on to these Banshees until later if you don't have to overcommit, but this Banshee's just doing work. Up to 8 kills, 9 kills, 10. Will it get 11? It will, in fact. And it looks like he doesn't believe he can get this out of here, so just trying to pick up as much damage as possible.
Worker count, though, is in favor of Koss, who just finished up his next base, and he's ahead in tech. Now, the problem is that he's a little bit behind in his overall meat of his army. His stim pack's a lot delayed behind his opponent. His combat shields are, nowhere to be found, so Lucifron has a pretty strong army on the ground, but Koss kind of did the damage he needed to. He's got an economic lead. He didn't have to invest in 1,000,000 missile turrets, and he has a little bit better tech than his opponent.
Yeah, from Lucifron, we're going to be seeing medevacs over tanks. From Koss, we are going to be seeing very quick tanks with siege and a double engineering base. So he's really going to be investing into the upgrades here, going for that late game scenario, and he just needs to not be picked apart by drop play, which is kind of funny because you would expect that Lucifron would be the one going for that maneuver with how many turrets he has.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And as the medevac count goes up, we're certainly going to keep an eye on that. As it's certainly a possibility, but look at the way Koss has just been able to eke out every little advantage here, picking off another Marine and another SCV, may even get himself a second Marine. Now, looks like it backs away to the medevac just in time, but still continuing to be annoying even despite the fact that his Cloak was picked up on basically as early as it possibly could have been.
So this is so interesting. Why have these engineering bases not yet started for Koss? Can we actually find that out?
Let's see here.
You know what? It's actually, it appears that it was just a glitch in the production bar, yeah. In the Matrix.
Yes.
And then suddenly we saw through it.
Well, this Banshee's already picked up 3 kills, so Lucifron's going to be pretty safe against any further drop play in the later part of this game, which is going to be a nice advantage for him. He's already got his armory coming up, so we can go into his 2-2 upgrades very quickly. But of course, he doesn't have any splash damage on the ground right now, and Koss is going to be prepared with a couple of tanks. So he has a little bit more defensive position for now, but Lucifron still a bit ahead in most upgrades.
Oh, he's got Stim and Koss doesn't, and if he hit right now, he could do damage, but Stim's finished. So now, not so much, Kevin.
No. Going to be difficult for him to try and duck his way in here. Oh, he catches this unsiege. This is the perfect opportunity for Lucifron to move in, and he picks off tank number 1 right away. A great maneuver, and Lucifron, does he have enough frontline power to deal with the rest of these forces? He would, except for that the tank's there now, and he is going to be driven off. Hopefully he doesn't lose too many medevacs. Doesn't look like he's actually going to lose any for now, but Koss is trying to chase these down.
Yeah, he is. Wouldn't be a bad idea to have one of the medevacs fall back just to see if it helps. Oh my god, that is so incredibly close, but that medevac gonna get away with just 10 hit points.
So let's take a look at the resources lost after that. Basically even for both players. 75 minerals actually separating them. Workers killed 12-0, but those came at the very beginning of the game, and we have relatively even, consistent worker counts now. Marines are even. Slight medevac advantage for Lucifron. Slight, nope, tank advantage just disappeared as both players are on the same. And now we've stabilized into that Marine tank force, which relies on positioning and can really slow down a TVT.
Well, the position right now is Koss sneaking around the left-hand side. We'll see if his invisibility cloak can outdo Lucifron. Remember, his wizard can see through stuff like Banshees. Nice. That was insane that scan saw that far.
It was right at the edge. I mean, we're talking if it moves half a second further, it's done for. Lucifron in a very bad position. He's trying to flank from around the side, but actually those were just medevacs, so he loses everything up at the front. May even lose a couple of these medevacs too. No, Lucifron going to make his way back. He loses one of the medevacs, yes, but manages to pick off a little bit in return.
Good engagement there for Koss, without a doubt.
Both these players, though, have been caught a little bit off guard. You remember Lucifron actually caught Koss off guard at the top of his ramp when the tank unsieged. So both these guys, not even necessarily slight errors, just their opponents have kind of struck at exactly the right time.
Yeah, that one costing, I believe the total toll there was, we saw 2 tanks fall for Lucifron and a medevac as well, and quite a few Marines for both players. Now going to be falling back. 118 supply to 104. Ladies and gentlemen, but Lucifron taking a much, much faster third here than Koss. Koss, I believe, yeah, his is completed, just finished making it an orbital effect.
But Lucifron's already received the economic advantage from it. The problem is, of course, is that he's just a little bit down in almost every category besides that earlier third. He's got less tanks, he's got less Marines, he's now tied on workers, I suppose, so he's caught up in that regard, but... let's see where the upgrade's at. He's got +2 weapons done a lot faster, and he's got +1 weapons done for his tanks. Koss, no such upgrade from his armory yet.
Lucifron seems to need more production right now. He is making just very small quantities of things. In fact, he's only using one of his factories. And he's got 500 gas, which just really is quite befuddling. But either way, there we go. Finally starting up a second tank. He really, I've been watching that production tab for about a minute now, and he just has only ever been using one of those factories. But looks like he's going to go for a quick fourth to get himself back into this game. Should be a goal. I honestly completely agree with that decision.
You have to take appropriate risks when you're behind. And this is one of those that if Koss picks up on this very early, he can easily move down and take it out. No doubt about it. But it's one of those risks where if it pays off, if your opponent doesn't pick up on it, then Lucifron has not just got himself back into this, he's probably even got himself an advantage if he pulls it off and it sits there for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, now it's completed, in like now, so he can turn it into an orbital, sit tight. Looks like Koss is the one with a nice positioning right now, though. Oh, looks like he's going to be able to deny this Zelnaga tower, which is just huge for Koss. Lucifron, of course, is going to have a difficult time scouting for his tanks then.
Lucifron setting up on that defensive position, though. We see another sizable force from Koss rolling down the left-hand side, so a good little pincer maneuver here, and Koss could converge on this force when the time comes. A little risky right now just to dive head first into it, but he's got a nice set of units to set up his own tank line here momentarily.
All right, so Lucifron, I really want to see him hold on to the Zelnaga tower. It's such an important point. We could have a clash of armies right now. Scans going down for both players. Looks like Lucifron's going to start the engagement. Nice volleys on the Marines for Lucifron. A lot of tanks going down, though, at this stage, but the Marines are just melting for Koss. And I got to say, that overall right there was not too bad from our K3 player.
No, I mean, he battled slightly better than a standstill. The problem was that he lost 3 tanks. His opponent only lost Marines. And because the Marine counts were so even, Koss can replenish those a little bit quicker anyway. But he's got this massive take advantage. Now, that's going to open up opportunities for Lucifron to try and swing around and do damage like he's doing now, and to maybe even get himself in a position where he can get up on top of his opponents. But now Koss has taken out the complete front line of tanks. He's now up 4 tanks to 11. And things are getting a little bit more difficult for Lucifron, who is trying to swing around with a little attacker on the back.
Oh, that was beautiful, though. Koss had a Marine on the right-hand side. You could see the effects of all this practice really showing right now, as he is just more than prepared for that drop play. Now he's going to be getting himself into position over on the far left here, where we saw that battle earlier on. We'll see what he can make happen.
All right, well, Koss sees the position of his opponent, and both players are going to be a bit at a draw here. Koss has a nice position on the top, but he's going to have a very difficult time navigating down this little narrow ramp.
I want to bring the attention back to this fourth, which has at this stage, let's take a look at this gas. See that he's been going for a minute and a half off both these refineries.
Like I said, man, if this sits for a few minutes, that's the move that Lucifron needed to make, and he's making, and he's recovering off it, as you can see.
Yeah, it looks like he's starting to pull a fair amount of cash, though. We do need to see him ramp up the production to maybe a 3rd factory and certainly quite a number of more barracks in order to compensate for this, because now he's grabbing a 5th on top of that, and we haven't seen any additional production facilities be implemented in order to utilize this extra income he's bringing in.
Well, I mean, hopefully those get added soon. I just grabbed him. He's only working on 5 barracks, 2 factories, and 1 starport. he does have 5 command centers, and if he can offer planetaries to both of those, he's going to have a nice defensive position to fall back on. But you're right. He needs more production, and he needs it pretty quickly, because even if he does damage here, he's going to need to replenish his army, and he just can't do it faster than his opponent can.
If he had spent all this, he's sitting on almost 1,500. He could be sitting on around 10 tanks right now, in addition to the count he's already looking at.
Oh, but Koss actually getting himself in kind of a bad position here. He's completely surrounded. This is a largely tank-based force. The Marines are actually across the ramp. Koss now going to try and rejoin his forces. There is an opportunity here for Lucifron to try and assault this, but it looks like he is just going to hold back. He's going to play a bit more passive, try and maybe trap this army as it gets its way out.
Oh, the Marines. It looks like he's going to pull back, doesn't commit to the engagement. I really thought he was just going to try to get, like, you know, around the tanks there, go for the hug, but instead he's going to try to catch out Cass's forces as he's swinging in from the upper right-hand corner, now falling back to his tanks.
Oh no, and he ran directly into this tank line here with a lot of Marines, and that did actually hamper Lucifron a little bit, losing another chunk of Marines outside of the front. He does have the ability to reproduce his forces, but as we mentioned before, he's lacking a barracks. He's adding them on now, and it's better late than never, as he adds on 3 barracks and 2 factories.
I really like Koss's position here. Now he's coming. You can see his army swinging down the right-hand side. Lucifron does not have knowledge of this, not yet. He's probably just getting to see it now as they're coming into the range of Xel'Naga. Going to be cleaning up these forces pretty easily. 2 tanks donated to the cause for Lucifron.
And now Lucifron is surrounded. He knows he has to get out of this position, but the problem is he just can't. He's trapped on both sides, and Koss is going to make a maneuver here to actually pinch in on these forces. Most of the forces on the left have gone down, so Lucifron can take his attention and move it to the right-hand side, and Koss, he decimates quite a bit of stuff, but because he wasn't able to engage on these forces at the same time and utilize the tanks on the left, Lucifron just gained himself a huge advantage that was as good of an engagement as he could have hoped for.
Oh, absolutely. Those tanks were so clumped up. We saw Lucifron destroy half of them in pretty much one volley. I mean, that was fantastic. The tanks on the left weren't firing at all. Couldn't have been better for Lucifron. Now he's cleaning up medevacs, trying to retreat out of there with tanks in him. Lucifron looking so strong after that engagement. He's a base up on his opponent right now. He's been mining forever off that 4th down in the bottom right, and all of his production just kicked in. We'll see if he can turn this advantage into a win, Kevin.
Hey, he's looking pretty good. He's got a ton of resources banked up, so he'll be able to utilize these new production facilities as soon as they're done. We're talking probably 5 tanks at a time now, and about 17 to 18 Marines at once. And that's a quite significant improvement over what he had before. We talked about it this entire game. He's been operating off of just 5 barracks, 2 factories, and 1 starport, to the point where he's so queued up at the moment and with a huge bank of resources. But now he's in a position where he can start sieging up this planetary fortress, and now is when things get hairy for Koss.
Oh, they certainly do. He doesn't have anything in position to deal with this, the planetary. This is such an important base for Koss. Is he going to be able to save it? He's not. The planetary has fallen. Lucifron is going to defend at this line right now as everything for Koss is trying to push in. We can see the SCVs even joining in the engagement, but Koss plummeting down to 125 supply to a maxed out Spanish Terran.
And the problem is he just lost another 20 workers or so. So he's at a 31 worker deficit, which means he has virtually no income at the moment. And Koss needs to be able to reproduce anything for now, but he just can't. Lucifron has a great position.
He really does across the board, whether we're talking about economy, production, unit count, now coming in, even these Marines helping out Lucifron even more as he picks off an additional tank there from Koss. Lucifron now, really all he's got to do to hold the position on the right, maybe send over a small squadron of Marines to deal with this up-and-coming base on the left, Kevin. And if he can take that base out, there's no answer for Koss.
Well, Koss is already in kind of a pretty bad position. I mean, we talked about that base down at the bottom right working out for Lucifron, and it has paid for itself in spades. So Koss now going to try and defend back. But the problem is, too, is that this base is so segregated from the rest of the forces that if Koss decides, okay, I'm going to hold this base at all costs, then he gives up his natural and his 3rd.
Yeah. Which is exactly why we want to see Lucifron keep those forces over on the right in case Koss overcommits to defending this left side position. Right now, though, Lucifron's happy to hold map control. It seems like he's taking things slowly. We see he's working on an assortment of upgrades right now, and I mean, we could even see a little bit of a shift in tech from him if he starts working on some ship upgrades. I'm not sure if he has only 1 or 2 armories, but I don't... Yeah, see, Lucifron, you want to make a move here because you know Koss is so down on supply.
Whoa! Oh, and this planetary fortress is going to fall almost immediately. There it goes. Cost down to kind of just this last gasp of health. And he's actually going to come close to being in the range of these siege tanks here. It looks like Lucifron going to try and take advantage of this and draw things into his tank fire. Cost does not take the bait, but he now finds himself in that position. We saw Lucifron sandwiched between 3 large forces.
Oh, this is a good decision out of Cost, though. If Lucifron overcommits to engaging this, he could lose his whole force, but no, it looks like he's going to catch so many of these siege tanks out of position. Look at how balled up the units right now for Cost are. Lucifron, yeah, he's losing his Marines in the front, but he's dealt with this army.
GG! Actually, GGG from Cost, and Lucifron takes game number 1 for Spanish Terran players, going up 1-0 in this best of 5.
Wow, what a TBT there, Kevin.
Yeah.
That was enthralling.
Yeah, I mean, especially with how good of a position Cost was in, but Lucifron being very resilient, taking that 4th base that was never picked up on.
Yep.
I mean, sure, when Cost goes back and looks at the replay, he's going to see that base and think, oh my god, I didn't go over there and check.
Yep. That's the reality of it. Playing a little bit too conservative maybe, or expecting his opponent to play in the same manner, but the reality is Cost realized he was behind, made a gamble, and the dice came up in his favor.
All right, guys, well, we're going to run to a commercial break, and when we get back, it's going to be time for game number 2 between Corunta Esports Club's Lucifron and Empire Cost.